This is the Nike Phantom GX, probably one of the most hyped boots of the last kind of 12 to 18 months. It's crazy popular, it sells out in every single size, and I've managed to not review it until now. And by the time this video goes up, I'll give it about 24 hours before the GX2 is available. But let's not let that stop us. Let's talk about this. Is it worth the hype? Because I think it's great, don't get me wrong, but it's not perfect. Let's find out what. Let's start with the standout feature that is borderline perfect, the GripKnit upper. This, oh dear lord, this is good. So what the GripKnit is it's a combination of yarns. You've got the high-test yarns giving you structure. You've got this grippy coating, so you can see these areas here, the lighter colours, these are all GripKnit, and then your high tenacity structural yarns are these other areas here, the darker colours. And what it does is it gives you a really amazing amount of grip on the ball. And I don't mean like an amazing amount, like it's crazy. What I mean is perfect. It's so good. You get this beautiful, delicate amount of grip that just allows you to control the ball that little bit better, especially in kind of any adverse weather conditions. It's winter here in Ireland. I've done most of the testing on an AG pitch that has been wet most of the time, and these are great. They're also supposedly, and I'll give Nike it to a degree, slightly water resistant. They actually stop too much water getting in and getting your feet soaked. The upper is pretty thin, giving you a quite direct touch on the ball, but I wouldn't call it barefoot. There's something about it that doesn't really lend itself to that, and it could be the fit, which we will discuss a little bit later on. I don't really want to gloss over how good this upper is and just move on to what else the boot does, but there's not a lot more I can say. It's very technical, it's very well put together, it's a fantastic idea. I hope Nike keep it for a very long time. I hope the GX2 with that added texturing that's on it doesn't take away from the GripKnit. It's one of Nike's best uppers, best inventions, new inventions in quite some time. I love it. Remember to like the video and get subscribed to Boot Wizard. You may have noticed that I have two pairs of Phantom GX sitting in front of my second and third pairs of Phantom GX. These two particular pairs are quite different, and I really want to show off the difference when we talk about the Soleplate. We'll start with this totally retail, completely normal GX, and in actual fact the stud pattern is the same on both of them, and it's a great stud pattern. I really like it. It's a really nice balance between being aggressive and also providing you with really great rotational movement, various different directions to push off. It's excellently done in terms of the stud pattern. You've got some of those more mercurial style three-way studs for great aggressiveness, multi-directional movement. You've got chevron style bladed studs in the front for a little bit of extra purchase, but then instead of having something like the bladed long studs in the back, you've got more rotational, and again these kind of crosshair studs and a few more conical studs down here in the midfoot. It just feels a little bit more stable than the mercurial, but it's definitely not as aggressive. But I'd say it's a really great all-round option. Onto the Soleplate itself, and the main issue, and there is an issue here, is that it affects the responsiveness of the boot. This is not the most responsive boot in the world, and it's probably the thing that lets the boot down the most. And it's a combination of things. You've got a very soft upper, so it doesn't always hold your foot exactly where you want it to be, particularly if you don't have a wide foot that fills out the full volume, because it is a reasonably wide boot, but also because the Soleplate itself is very flexible. Now, it's not nearly as flexible as I originally was made to believe, but it's seriously bendy even through this midfoot area. There's not a lot of support there, and it's the thing that I dislike the most about the boot. Now, it's not a deal breaker, and not everybody wants a very rigid midfoot. I personally do. I prefer this more rigid, more aggressive style than what you're getting here. Just think that the midfoot area needed to be beefed up. The Soleplate as a whole is very flat. It doesn't push you onto your toes at all. Again, not a problem, but it takes away from that responsive, quick feeling, and it's not overly snappy. It's not very snappy at all, to be honest. And it's just things that I don't look for in my boots. But that's not to say it's not for you and it's not still good. Now, the reason that I had these is because these are actually a pro custom pair of Phantom GX that I managed to get hold of. And these belonged to Kira Walsh, England and Barcelona women's football player, one of the best football players in the world. I have her boots. And on the inside, there is a different Soleplate board to what you're getting on the regular retail version, and stiffens up the whole thing. There's no bend in that midfoot, and a little bit more spring back in that forefoot, and there's definitely less rotational movement, which overall makes me very happy. I prefer that. This isn't a deal breaker. You might still like it, but definitely flex. Just a quick one. I have the Phantom GT, the GT1, which this takes over from. Okay, there was a GT2, but fundamentally they were exactly the same boot. And this really does improve on the GT in almost every way. I actually quite like this. I know it wasn't universally loved, especially a lot of people having problems with the heel, which I didn't really have. But overall, this is better. Let's talk about that heel. So it seems that Nike definitely listened when it came to the heel on the GX, and they made it way more comfortable than they did in the GT. There's just no pressure points. I know a lot of people suffered from blisters and things like that with the GT, but the GX, they fixed that problem. They've introduced this new technology that we reviewed in the Luna, which is this heel counter. Kind of doesn't exist. It's very, very soft, very, very squishy, but it still manages to hold your heel in place by using some more structure around the sides of the heel just to lock everything in place. Now, this is a huge plus, a really big benefit, and it's great. I don't sound too enthused, do I? Now, it's not that I'm not enthused. It's an improvement, it's good, and it's super comfortable, which realistically should be the first thing that you're looking for when you go to buy a boot. Is it comfortable? Because if it's not, then it's no point wearing it anyway. However, unlike the Luna with the DF collar, and unlike the DF version of this, I don't feel particularly locked into the heel. It's fine, but I want more. I definitely want to feel like I'm locked into this heel a little bit more. Now, I think that that's solved with the DF collar version. There is actually a slight difference, and the same can be said of the materials this time around, the Vapor and the Superfly. I think the heel is better in the Superfly, although my man Holt's Boots did a review of the Vapor and he disagrees. He prefers them the other way around. So just be aware there is a minor difference between the DF and low collared versions of most of the Nike boots at the moment, and it is generally the heel, and personally I think the DF collar versions are better. If you want to pick up the GX, GX2 or any other boots, please use the links down in the description because it helps support the channel, doesn't affect you, doesn't cost you anything, but it keeps us running. Thank you. So while I personally would like a smidge more heel lockdown, the comfort is through the roof, and then the lockdown in the rest of the boot, it's actually really good, especially for an upper that is as scuffed as it is. The lacing system runs really deep, and it's just an error that so many companies seem to make. They're stopping lacing systems short, so I really appreciate that they ran it so deep down into the boot and through this kind of dual layer. So that under here, there you go, you've got an extra bit of material. You've got Flyknit transitioning into GripKnit, which is kind of Flyknit, but anyway, and it's not even bulky in any way. It still keeps that really thin feel that we spoke about earlier, with overall great lockdown. The lockdown is going to be impacted by the fit, and I think if you have a particularly narrow foot, these might not be the best way to go for you. Now, you would have to have a very narrow foot for me to make that claim, because these are gonna fit nearly everybody, and the amount of width that's on offer is actually fantastic. If you've got a wider foot, these are probably going to be one of your best options on the market right now. So we've got a comfortable heel, we've got plenty of width, it's nice and comfortable, it's really soft. That leads to great break-in time, which by great break-in time, I mean there just really isn't any. You want to be, I reckon I had one session in these, one pickup game, done, broken it. Then with regards to the length, we have them here against the GT, which was definitely a little bit long. I said at the time, not quite half a size long, but a little bit long. And the GX falls into that same category. I don't really know if you can see it here, but it's slightly shorter than the GT, but still slightly longer than a standard size, but definitely not long enough for you to go down half a size. And especially after they're broken in, they just end up fitting a lot better than they do out of the box. So in simple terms, whatever you would normally buy in a Nike boot, or if you have a recent Nike boot, just get that size in the GX. The Nike Phantom GX, a really great boot with a couple of flaws, which all that means, considering the time, is get hyped for the GX2. Hopefully.